Hey, welcome everybody to the weekly WP Roundup with BJ Keeton. That's me. And it's the middle of October, and we are still here with the best news and tutorials and resources that we were able to wrangle up this week. So, for those of you who are new to the show, who are new to how we do things around here, basically what I've done is curate a list of new publications in the WordPress sphere that have come out and things that I think that you really should know about and that may make your life a little bit better. Well, professional life at least. Maybe the other too. We always get together, we talk a lot. The comments are generally pretty active, so feel free to throw anything that you want in the comments. We have questions all the time, and we have such a wonderful community that people really try to help out and answer any kind of questions that you may have. I'll do my very best as well. I'm seeing some comments already coming through, so hi everybody, hi Uncle Social, hi Judy. So we really try to get to know each other, so don't be shy, throw whatever you want to in the comments. And then all of the links that I'm talking about this week are in the description of this video, so you can just expand the description on whether you're on YouTube or on Facebook and see whichever ones you want, follow along, copy and paste them all, do whatever you want. Just show the content creators some love, because without them, we couldn't really do this. So I see that I'm going to mess this pronunciation up here. Mirai, first time here from Montreal. Nice to see you. Glad to see, always love when people find the show. So hopefully we'll have more and more roll in throughout the episode. But just to get started, I always start out with the news. And this week is a kind of big week for Elegant Themes. I'm going to start it out with the big news in case you haven't heard about it. We have dynamic content, you guys. The dynamic content release got pushed out, so we finally have in Divi. If you update Divi right now, you will get the dynamic content update. You can make pretty much any module that you want to display any kind of dynamic content that you want. This has been asked for forever. People really have been wanting this, and we have been working on this for a good long time to make sure that it is exactly what you guys need. This is where you can update anything that you want on your site without having to manually do it. It'll be able to make database calls and automatically update that content. It's absolutely fantastic, and honestly, this is the first step to getting that theme builder. This was one that I know that we wanted to get out, that you guys have been asking for customizable headers and footers and really the entire theme editor, and this really is the first step, the kind of the cornerstone update to be able to get that going. So so with this out, I'm just so excited. So I think you guys will really like this. I see Arslan, again, I butcher people's names, and I'm very sorry about that. Asking how you can use this feature. It is in any of the modules that you update. Once you update Divi, you'll be able to see the dynamic content area. There is a link to a video well, there's a video in the link I provided, I guess is the better way to put it. It's the first one on the list here, so you can see it in action right now. And on Monday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern, Mac is going to be doing a live stream tutorial of how to use it and be able to answer any questions that may have come up over the last few days or over the next couple of days. One thing that I saw that in the comments of the article for dynamic content is that people have been looking for support for ACF and things like that, the advanced custom fields. And part of the way that this update works is by using different custom fields. And someone had asked about that, and Nick said that the video in the update, that the example is using advanced custom fields. So so you guys should be good to go on that if you're one of the many thousands who use that. Excuse me, my mouth gets so dry. So I got really excited about that. I love the comments. Hi to Spain. Bon dia, hola. We just got back from Spain, actually. From Catalonia in Barcelona. It was a fantastic trip. It was the first time I'd ever been there, and I was just blown away. I love it. I can't wait to go back. I wanted to stay. I don't think my wife and dog would have been terribly happy about me staying over there, but man, I would have absolutely loved just to have stayed there. It was great. Hi to India, everywhere. We've got a lovely, we have an absolutely lovely group today coming from everywhere, from Chile. Awesome. I see a couple of people saying that our layouts are getting better and better, and I totally agree. Our design team is knocking these out of the park. So I actually wanted to point one of those out to you. A couple of weeks ago, we had a viewer ask about needing a basketball club layout, and I was looking in there and to see what we had, and a lot of times we'll do individual different kinds of teams and clubs like that can be adapted, and this week we pushed out a soccer club layout pack. So I can't remember who it was that asked about that. But it would be, the soccer one is a very good substitute for that until that comes along. Some of the images won't work, obviously, different sports, but the layout should probably work well if you're needing the basketball. I think, at least for the time being, I know I've adapted quite a few of these, but I wanted to point that one out, that if you're working with any sports clubs and sports teams to put their websites together, because a lot of them really do need new websites, this is a really, really good starting place that came out this week. I was really excited about that one. So I see another question. A few days ago, the last update with the hover features, how can overlay text over an image using this feature? I don't know. That one, I haven't used that feature. Hopefully somebody else in the comments will. That's one that I haven't actually messed around with personally, so I can't say how that one works individually, but I know that you can. Like I said, hopefully somebody on the website, in the comments, has messed with that one. I apologize for that. Sorry, I get distracted by the comments when everybody's talking, so I do apologize. So, like I said, I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew about that particular update, that layout pack. So, next, the third one down on the third and fourth one really go together under news. And this was one that I'm not gonna, it's not one that I want to linger a lot on, but it is something I want to point out to you guys. When I saw this, it kind of raised a couple of caution lights around me, because apparently the WordPress accessibility team who was working through Gutenberg to get this pushed out, which we have 5 weeks for that, you guys. It's coming out on November 19th. So we've got 5 weeks until 5.0 drops if they're keeping to the current schedule. And the WordPress accessibility team lead resigned. Ryan resigned. Ryan Rietveld. I'm gonna butcher her name, but it's she resigned from the accessibility team because Gutenberg's not ready. She had cited that there were political complications over the last year really, and there were a lot of issues that weren't being addressed in terms of accessibility for Gutenberg. And the reason that I wanted to get this out to you guys was because with this update coming, with this individual update that we can choose between whether we want the classic editor or the Gutenberg editor, I want you to know that if you design for accessible websites, like if, screen readers, that kind of thing, if accessibility is a major thing for you, or you use accessibility features when you're designing and when you're working in WordPress, it may not be a good time to update to Gutenberg. It is not working that well with a lot of them. There are some issues with it that she brought up in her blog, in the resignation blog, which is the one under the WP Tavern blog that announced it. But this is one that I wanted to let you guys know about, because if you haven't tried Gutenberg yet and you use accessibility software to use WordPress, please look into this because it will directly impact you. And if you have a staff member who does or clients who do, please check this out. Because it's not as though it can't create accessible websites, it's that Gutenberg itself isn't necessarily accessible. So there were issues that she had stated with some of the landmark areas and just not working. So I really wanted to get that out there where, and that's not a knock on Gutenberg or anything, but when I saw that she had resigned because of it, it was something that I felt that you guys really ought to know about. That some member of your team, someone, or something out there is going to need to know about this. So I wanted you, to be aware that as that's coming in the next 5 weeks, that these are the things that we need to start thinking about more than anything else. That we have to choose between the classic editor and Gutenberg, which is fine, we have that option. But if you go Gutenberg, and a lot of us will, I've actually started trying to use it on my personal stuff just to get used to it as it comes along. These are the kind of things that we should be aware of to make the most educated choice possible. So with that said, Uncle Social actually sent me a link on Twitter earlier this week that is about 5 years old, so it doesn't really fit into the whole weekly thing, but I saw it this week for the very first time, and I wanted to bring it up under news that I thought it was great, and it's the last one under news called "Kids Can't Use Computers, and This Is Why That Should Worry You." This is exactly my kind of experience in academics when I was a teacher and I worked in the Learning Center. The issues that this article brings up about people not being technologically literate are very real. They are incredibly prevalent. They're ubiquitous, and just to the point where one of them was a student said that the computer wasn't working and they didn't know how to turn on the monitor. And it was issues like that. So I put this one under news just because it was something I wanted to make sure that we talked about. I wanted to make sure that I got to it, and because it was shared this week. It's one where I think that we all may fail a little bit and may need to think about, and this is a good time to really think about this kind of technological literacy with Gutenberg coming out. It's one where we may take it for granted that Uncle Social said that we as people my age and us watching all of this are at a very special time, because we were at a time when we're digital natives. I mean, we grew up with it, but we grew up with it at a point where we had to learn how it worked if we wanted to use it. And that's exactly why I can sit here and do this, is because I poked around with computers when I was like 8 years old with my dad. And a lot of kids and a lot of people aren't doing that these days, that they know how to use certain software, but they don't know how to use a lot of hardware or, how to fix that particular software. So it was something that with Gutenberg coming in, we need to be aware of how it works. We need to be aware of what it's doing to the WordPress ecosystem. We need to know about the HTML flags that it puts in as it's doing all this, so that WordPress can render everything and just everything that it does. We as a group, I don't want to say as a generation, but as a group of WordPress users who know how WordPress works now, we need to be aware of how it's going to work in the future. That we need to really, whether we are Team Gutenberg or not, we need to prepare for Armageddon. I've been waiting all day to say that. We need to prepare for Armageddon and make sure that we know what to expect when something breaks. And it's not an if. Everything breaks. Y'all know that. We need to be prepared how to fix it, because we're the ones that they're going to ask. And right now, I'm using Gutenberg as a user, and I have no idea how it works. I have absolutely no idea how to fix anything that is broken in Gutenberg. When it breaks, I disable it and go back to the old editor. And that's not a good thing. That's the kind of thing that this article is talking about, that I don't have the literacy to be able to use that software as effectively as I need to, both professionally and as a hobbyist. So I wanted to get you guys on that same page. I at least wanted to bring that idea up to you guys, that since it's coming out in 5 weeks, we should all probably dig in just a little bit deeper on it and learn how. I see Tom G on YouTube asking that Gutenberg has not gone down well. The only reason I say that, Tom, is because it's coming out in 5 weeks, and it's going to shake up WordPress. It's going to be, there are going to be a few weeks to a month of very hard conversations in the community, and people are going to have a lot of opinions, and it's going to work out fine. In the end, I know this is going to be fine. We're going to have WordCamp US a couple of weeks after that. Things are going to be gravy. No need to worry, but for a couple of weeks, maybe till the beginning of the year, I really think that it's going to be this kind of delayed reaction of, oh my God, WordPress changed, I didn't know this was coming, and we need to be the ones prepared to fix that, because we're going to be the ones that people are asking about. Just like with Divi, people are asking what Divi is going to be doing with it, and we released the very first Divi compliance with it a month ago, maybe, and it's simply the ability to switch back and forth between them, and we have some other things working in the back on, I don't want to say in the back end, but working in the dev team to integrate them together a little bit differently. But we're preparing for it, and I think we're preparing for it as a company. I think that we as individuals should prepare for it as well. So that's that. Like I said, thank you, Uncle Social, for bringing that article to my attention so that I could be thinking about things like Gutenberg because of it. It's also made me want to get my nephew some tech for Christmas that he could mess around with and play with, because all he really ever messes with are like Nintendo Switches, cell phones, iPads, and things like that. So I want to get him something like a Raspberry Pi maybe, or something that he can mess with and learn how to do something with, or completely break, because I broke my fair share of things when I was a kid messing around with hardware. So yeah, if you guys are just joining us, if this is your first time in, if you came in late for whatever reason, we're just wrapping up the news section in the weekly WP Roundup and moving on into the tutorial section. This is generally where I have articles that I found during the week that go from beginner all the way to advanced, just different tutorials I saw that might make your might make you learn something, because enough of these are in the notes that I have that I've learned quite a bit and am able to go back to them. So I think that you guys may learn something too, and that's always fun. Today we published on the Elegant Themes blog a local SEO guide I had written and put together on local SEO, and I know a lot of you guys, that is your specialty, so I wanted to kind of point that out and talk to you guys about that and just let you know that it's there, because this one's kind of that easy to understand guide. It's where we can go through the major points and then expand on them in more in-depth ways at a different point, where pointing out to people about Google My Business pages and all sorts of stuff like that. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, I think that one's a good one. And then Jason put together a couple of really good tutorials this week on how to create one-sided box shadows, which are really neat, that I did not know how to do. I thought it was easy to do, and then I found out it's not. Well, it's easy for him to do. Like thinking about it, it's like, that's not how I thought I would do that, and my way was totally wrong. And then he also put together a how to create stunning text designs using section dividers in Divi. And this one, y'all, I did not, when I saw the examples that he put up there as what you're able to do with this technology, with the builder, I was kind of amazed, because I would not have guessed that was using section dividers to style that text. So y'all should absolutely look at those. Those are super cool. Torque Mag also put together a very important, very important React basics for WordPress developers, because once again, if you're a developer and you are working in JavaScript at all, it may behoove you, and yes, I just used the word behoove in conversation on live TV or live internet, so it may behoove you to learn React a little bit, especially if you're a member of the Divi Nation, because Divi is written in React, the Divi front-end builder, and the Gutenberg builder is written in React. So it's just a good idea to have that under your belt, at least, again, to have a basic understanding of what it is, where it's something that when something goes wrong, you know what it is and how to troubleshoot it. And he goes through stuff like the React DOM, the Hello World, all of this stuff with React.create, the .create element, and JSX, which is something that is important because that's what a particular the word just left me. It's not a language, a markup that thank you, my brain. A markup that they use with React. It's really nice. It's good language library there. So super cool. You need to know it. Like, be aware of it. You may not learn this in and out, but knowing what this stuff is and what it means, it may be the difference between a good work day and a bad work day at some point in the near future. So I see Tom G on YouTube has asked, how does Divi perform on the SEO front? I read an article a week or so back about HTML markup being possibly confusing for crawling. Divi works great for that. That's one thing that you don't need to actually worry about. Yoast has actually said in the past that HTML code like that doesn't really affect SEO. That the only thing that you need to worry about when you're doing SEO is not so much how the theme is coded or how any of the plugins or interact with your page. What you need to be concerned about are things like the semantic web and making sure that your schema is updated so that if you're running any of the SEO plugins like Yoast or All-in-One SEO, that you need to make sure that all of the schema.org sitemaps are set up and submitted to Google Search Console, right? Also, that you're using the best the words left me. The best flags for the semantic web, which are using things like strong for bold or EM for italics, things like that, where you don't want to do a /I or /B because that's not as easily readable as the words are with the way the crawlers are interacting. And the more that you write with headings, the way that you answer questions and using bullet points and things like that to make the actual content more easily scannable and the information more easily brought out, that's what the way that HTML tends to affect it more. When you break it up, it is much better and use semantic practices. In terms of Divi itself, any tests that we've run in terms of page load speed, like video in the comments mentioned, or any of the others, we've not noticed, I've not noticed, and we as a team haven't noticed any real differences in Divi and anything else when you're running any of the speed tests. That I've run tests on the same site with the same content loaded up on Divi Astra in 2017, and they all perform within hundreds of milliseconds to each other. Just when you get the actual stuff optimized for it, when you get images optimized and things like that. So for the most part, we're actually pretty aware of what Divi, we know that Divi looks like it's a very heavy piece of software on the code end, and in a lot of ways it is, but in terms of page load speed and the way that the crawlers hit it, it's hitting the same things that it will hit with say 2017. It's put together so that stuff is out there and able to be begotten, seen. I'm not exactly sure what word I should use there, but I would not worry about that at all. I rank with Divi. I know I see that Unforced Rhythms in the YouTube comments says gets top rankings with several sites using Divi. I think it's I don't think that's a big deal, but the most HTML stuff that I've seen that affects it more are making use of bulleted lists, of headings, making sure that you use for Google page speed. Sorry, I saw that word on there. Making sure that you do for headings and make sure that you have it in a hierarchy for schema. Video Superhero said testing for Google page speed, like what CSS to include above the fold and deferring the rest of the CSS. Divi is pretty good about that. We have recently, 6 months, in the last 6 months, worked on that to make sure that we minify all the CSS and that everything loads in a much more optimized fashion. I can't remember the exact update or how it was, but I know that we did an update on that. I'd have to search the archives actually to see on it, but that was the focus of an update a few months ago. I think that at that point, Divi sites really did start jumping up because a lot of the CSS above the fold loaded. You can lazy load images and things like that to increase it, and you can do that from Jetpack and stuff. So I like it. Also CDNs, that kind of thing. So let me see, where was I at? Let's just go all in on Gutenberg, right? So there is a Smashing Magazine article, and I love Smashing that they put out such high quality content that if you're wanting to get into Gutenberg, that you need to probably learn how to write a block. And Smashing put out how to write your first Gutenberg block, basically, that you need if you're looking to learn Gutenberg, that the only way to do it is by building a block. And this is one where they have a 10-step kind of tutorial here where it works on registering it, learning what attributes and edit and save, and just all of the stuff are that you need to know for Gutenberg. Like, I don't. And no, I see people saying that my video is frozen. 1 second, it's showing going on mine. Check that. I've got green on everything. Hopefully it'll come back in a second for you guys. I'm going to try to move on since it's showing on mine. All right, we're back. Yeah, we're back. So I don't know what that was. Everything was showing green on my end. That was super, super weird. I clicked into YouTube to see, and it went from the thumbnail screen to me, and everything was showing green the entire time. But I don't know if I talked about this last week, and I don't know, I may have, but I wanted to point it out because you guys have asked for it in the past, so I threw it at the bottom of the tutorials. It was how to add a YouTube video background to a WordPress site. This is something that's not coming in Divi. It came from above, that this was a feature that is not going to be included natively. So we did an article showing you how you can do that with some plugins. We wanted to make sure that if you wanted to do that, that you knew that it was possible out there, and you can do it with Divi. You just can't do it using Divi features. You have to go externally. So the very last thing on the tutorials is that, and again, I can't remember if I mentioned that before, so I'm not going to linger on it, but I do want you guys to note that it is there if you want it. Just don't break copyright law. This is me wagging my finger at you, telling you no, it's only videos that you own the rights to. So, moving on into the resources for you guys who are new, finishing up the news and tutorials. They were actually fairly small this week. Big stuff, dynamic content, Gutenberg coming out, Gutenberg not being accessible, YouTube videos in the backgrounds, dogs and cats living together, mass confusion. It's great stuff, but it wasn't a lot of it. So I wanted to really push into the resources because I so rarely get to get into the resources. I very, very rarely get to talk about this stuff that I find, and this is, in my mind, the really cool stuff. This is the stuff that I want to share with you and talk about that's really conversation starters. And Colombian hosting on YouTube, so I can't use this video as my website background. If you want my shining face as your video, as the background on any of your websites, then go right ahead. But nobody wants that. No, I'm kidding. The first thing under resources that I put under there, though, was something that I think needs to be discussed a lot more, and it doesn't really get talked about. When we were talking about accessibility, when I saw this article after I'd seen the resignation article, it was like, oh my goodness, designing experiences for your websites and for your apps to improve mental health. That one was really interesting to me because that's not something that we think about very often in terms of user experience. We think about a lot of physical things that we can do better, you know, with color blindness, with screen readers, with auditory cues, alt text, different kinds of font sizing and things like that. But a lot of it, we don't think about mental health issues. And so this one was really, really interesting on just the idea of bridging the gap, like they said, between clinicians and designers. It's very interesting that says, apps aren't necessarily the problem in doing this. That we don't know on a lot of these apps on how to make people feel better. Like, this was a really, really neat idea because of, think about apps like Headspace. That if you used Headspace or 10% Happier, that a lot of these really popular mindfulness and meditation apps, are they the best for the people who need them? And when I've been very anxious and I needed to meditate, I needed to get my head right, sometimes I'll go into Headspace and I can't find the right pack that I want. I can't find the exact thing just to be able to get in there and have something calm me down. So that user experience, that UX, is not where it needs to be. There's more friction than it should be. And so they're talking about just this kind of stuff, like making it human, talking about your apps and your web design being evidence-based, whatever you use, where it's all accepting a failure, that you don't have a lot of really negative language on there, that you test it and make sure, where they have some that's easier at the, like, there's an example toward the bottom where they have a side-by-side comparison of two different ideas of the idea for getting help, and it says one of them is like, thank you for downloading, you've taken a strong step towards staying safe when you begin to experience suicidal thoughts and all this, and that's great, but that's not what you need at the top of a website, on the top of an app. It has people at the top of it in the better design. It has a way to contact help. And instead of a get started button, there's a call 911 button. It's just stuff like that it actually makes these accessible to people having mental health issues right then and there, that it was something that I didn't ever really think about. That as someone who suffers from anxiety, I never realized until reading this that, yeah, I get frustrated at Headspace sometimes because I have to scroll so often, so much to get to the particular meditation that I want to get to, or the particular session. So it was just an interesting article that that I liked because it was something that we don't think about a lot. We think about UX in terms of friction. We think about UX in terms of accessibility. But we may not think about UX in terms of mental health accessibility. It's really, really cool where they talk about just everything as they break it down. They have left and right kind of how making something friendlier and bigger often has an increased effect, even if it increases friction and more scrolling within certain areas, like companion type stuff, check-ins, that kind of feature. And one of the big ones that they talk about is how text is not good, that you want things to be a lot more emotionally invested, that they know what's going on, that it's recollection as opposed to, or recall rather than recognition, where recognition rather than recall, excuse me, where you want them to be able to know what to do automatically, that they just recognize, like, okay, this is how I use this. Very interesting on UX, and I'm really, really, really interested in this kind of thing. So I'm going to dig in a lot deeper on this myself and see how I can, even my writing articles, how these guides, if there's a way to be more accessible to somebody having a hard time. So it's a really good idea. It's a really interesting idea, and I wanted to bring that up for you guys. While I was talking, I see a few comments on here. I was about to cough on you guys, and y'all don't want that. Olivia had mentioned, I'm new to Divi, but want to ask if I can use my theme from Genesis with the Divi plugin and the drag and drop feature. Uncle Social would like to know the answer to. I've never used the Divi plugin with another theme. That would make a good article. Which themes does Divi plugin work well with? Yes, the answer to that is yes. Yeah, you can use it with Genesis. I know that I've seen a lot of pages. Actually, there used to be a gallery. I'm not sure where it is anymore. I'm not sure if it's live, of Genesis frameworks built with the Divi Builder. Really cool stuff that you can do. Astra is used a lot with that. People really like Astra. One of the reasons they use it over the Divi theme but use the Divi Builder is because of the header and footer options that you have on there, because they do have customizable header and footer on there. So if you were to run with it, you could do that. But generally, we try to make it so that any theme is usable with the Divi Builder. All of the major ones right now that people are using, the really major frameworks, you shouldn't have much problem at all using Divi with them, especially because a lot of them are actually pretty similar when you break it down. A lot of them look very much the same when you put them side by side. There is this kind of white screen with a menu, a sidebar, and just a bunch of text and blogs displayed on a white background with black text, which is great for us and great for you because you don't have to constantly keep relearning things. If you run into any kind of issues with that, Olivia, if you're working on website and you see that, oh, the Divi Builder broke this in terms of Genesis, that's actually something I would love for you to talk to the live support about and just let them know, because we're building a knowledge base of stuff like that, that it will be something that they let you know, as well as, that you let them know, we let the dev team know if that's something that needs to be fixed on our end, and it also lets us put it in the knowledge base so that other people can find that out. Making the menu module available for regular sections, that would help a ton. Currently only available with full width header. As far as I know, video, that is going to be part of the theme customizer option, from what I've heard, in terms of the way that menu customization works and things like that. I think a lot of those features are going to be included in the theme builder, because it's such an all-encompassing endeavor to really put it all together that separating one of those out may not actually have the effect that we want it to, because things are so tied together. So that's one that I would expect to see in the theme customizer more than anything else. That's when I would expect to see it, before then. Oh, it's in the visual one. Okay. Were you using the back end for that already? Because a lot of the stuff I know has been cut out of the back end. Not cut out of the back end, but not included in the back end. And part of the reason for that is, if you guys have already have experienced that where new features are visual only, is that they're built in... they're built in different libraries. One of them's built in Backbone, and the Visual Builder's built in React. And so the features are being developed for React and the Visual Builder as we're working to move it to the back end. So that's what it is. So let's see. I saw this one, and the second one under resources is something that once I saw this, I was like, oh my goodness, yes, we need to talk about this. So a lot of people think that the green dots in Yoast mean that you're going to get on the first page of Google, because the title of this article is Why Green Dots in Yoast Aren't Moving Your Rankings. And this one, y'all, this one's a little bit of common sense and a little bit of, oh, that's not how Yoast works, where it's training. It's one of those in the middle there where I thought it worked one way until I started working on this professionally. And now I see how it does. And this article really breaks it down nicely. The green dots in Yoast, let's say that you're using the Yoast plugin and you have the readability score that it works on, and you have the keyword score, the SEO, the focus keyword. You will have 3 ranges that you can be in, with a red, which needs improvement, a yellow or an orange, depending on how your screen looks, on that it's okay, but you can fix some stuff. And then green is like, yep, you're ready to go. So as a rule, I'm trying to think on how to phrase this. As a rule, our handbook at ET says that we strive to get green dots on Yoast before we submit and publish, which is a good practice to have. That's also, as I say to you guys, as I've said before, that is kind of the lowest common denominator. That is like minimum viable product for you to put an article out, because that tells you that you are on the right track, that you are not doing, you are doing more things good than you're doing bad. And that is really what this article is talking about, how when you open it up and you look, if you open into the article and see the Lockdown SEO article and scroll a little bit, you'll see that they're showing a screenshot of what the Yoast meta box looks like. And you see that with an orange dot, you can still have good results, improvements, and problems. And just because you have more good results than you do needs improvement and problems, that doesn't mean that you're going to rank, because you have a lot of things that are still wrong that you may need to address, and some that you may not be able to. It's like the keyword density. This has an orange, the article example that they have has an orange dot on it. And it, which means that it's okay, it's good enough. Sorry, I got distracted by comments again. That's good enough, but there is a red dot on there that says the keyword density is too low, that it's 0.4%, and the focus keyword was only found 4 times. That's a major thing. It doesn't matter if it's green, y'all. It matters that your keyword is there enough to be recognized, that you need to make sure that that's what you're talking about. You have to be able to tell the algorithms and the crawlers that this is what this is about, this article is about. So just because it's green, and if you have a red dot under that green dot that says keyword is too low, or no internal links appear, fix that. Those things are easy to fix. Now, you may have one under readability that says you have 2 articles, you have 2 headings that have more than 300 words under it, that you may be green for everything except that one. It's fine, leave it. Because that doesn't necessarily affect anything other than what best practices are, where sometimes you have to go into that much detail and there's no spot to break it up with a subheading. A lot of the time there are, many times there are, but there's not every single time. So some of these need to be looked at on an individual basis based on that article and what your goals for that article are. But don't look at it as though once you get green, you can ignore everything else that it's brought up, because those issues still exist. That green dot does not recommend to Google that is a good site to rank. As this article puts it, you're the only one who sees those green dots. That is for you to know. Google looks at what gets you those green dots, not the dots themselves. That is a guide for you, that when you're doing this and you're there, you have to weigh your options on which one, on the I don't want to say risk versus reward, but the return on your investment, which being your time. Should you spend more time on this, or should you roll it out the door? Whichever one of those matters to you the most for this particular article or post or piece of content, think about it that way. But just because you have 2 green dots on Yoast does not mean that you're going to rank on the first page of Google, or honestly rank on Google anywhere above page 5 or 6 if the content's not there and you're not practicing the most of the best practices that you can do. I see Uncle Social saying that I should have my own YouTube channel giving content writing advice. That is a good idea. I I don't think I would want to do that. That is something I have tried to get out of more than anything else in terms of teaching things like that, getting out of academics. But you're right. I do have passion about this. This is something I care about. This is something that I've spent the last 10 years blogging about and learning what these things mean, and longer than that, studying language and content in general. So, and there are some things when I look at what Yoast says, I'm like, it's not good for this, Yoast. I was a professor. I know more than that. And that's not necessarily always the case. But you have to learn how to use these plugins. That these are not tools that do the work for you. And that's really what I want to get across here with the Green Dot article, is I want you to be aware that these tools make your job easier, but they do not do the job. That you need to at least look over what you have. That there are a lot of times where I will run, I'm good at what I do. I know I'm a good writer. But I still run my articles through Grammarly to make sure that I haven't messed anything completely up, just to make sure that I haven't had a typo or that I don't miss it whenever I'm reading through it for the fourth time. Whatever it is just use these tools, but make sure you use these tools for the way that they're meant to be used. It's like trying to cut down a tree with a jigsaw. I mean, yeah, you can do it, but why would you? Why use it that way? That's what I'm saying. Why don't let Yoast be used the wrong way. Don't get a false sense of security because you get green dots and wonder if you've done something wrong, because you probably haven't done anything wrong, even with the green dots. You just may not have done enough, just right enough. So go back and look at some of your stuff, and I bet if you do an SEO audit of those posts, that you'll be able to rank higher if you just go back and fix a few of the things that Yoast is still telling you need fixing. So, something to think about. So yeah, moving on. Visual Composer, another one of the page builders out there. Were they the first one? Were they the very first page builder out there? Because they're the one that whenever I started looking into this kind of thing, that they were the one that was basically being used as a catch-all for page builder. Regardless, I used them for a long time, and they have an article that goes perfectly, y'all, with the update that Divi had this week. That we did dynamic content this week. In case you haven't gotten the email, in case you haven't checked the blog, in case you haven't updated Divi, and in case you came to the show late, Elegant Themes released the dynamic content update for Divi this week. So, once you've updated Divi and you've seen that, read this article under resources by Visual Composer, that these are 9 tips for hosting dynamic WordPress sites. And that's what it is. It's talking about how you can use dynamic content. I've talked so much that my mouth is even drier than usual. It was something that someone was talking about at the beginning of the show on tutorials on how to use this. And if you're looking at a way, if you want to look at it as a way instead of like a, how to specifically technically use this feature, this is a really good article to look at in terms of what you need to be aware of on that you can't use page caching. A lot of the stuff is going to change on a page load by page load basis. So you're not going to be able to page cache with it. You're not going to be able to WP Rocket that thing anymore. So you're probably going to have to make exceptions in whatever your cache plugin is. You're going to have more complex database queries. So that means that things are going to maybe a little slower. So you have to accommodate for that. That you have a lot of, as this says, they often have concurrent visitors, a lot of them, because dynamic sites receive higher traffic because they're likely to be heavily promoted because there's a lot of different things that can change and apply to different people. They say go for a performance optimized host. Make sure you're running PHP 7.2 or at least 7 plus. Guys, oh man, I got excited and did that. Guys, y'all need to update your PHP from 5. Please update to 7. Please, please. Talk to your host. Talk to your clients. Talk to whoever you got to talk to and get that done because it's so much faster. That there are plugins that are coming out right now that are requiring it. That if you use the image optimizer, for instance. I know it's EWWW or whatever. I always go It's how I say it in my head. They require PHP 7 now. That you cannot use PHP 5.5 and use that anymore. So a lot of the stuff that you're looking to use on a daily basis, that you're using on a daily basis, are going to be moving into PHP 7 soon. So that's really important for dynamic content too, because it makes everything faster. It's just better. It's more optimized. Things like that. I saw a comment that I got to adjust, where they talk about using Elasticsearch, object caching, offloading static sites to an external storage, and using a CDN. Did you guys know that you can use the WordPress.com CDN for images if you use Jetpack on pretty much everything but big enterprise sites? That may be a really good option for you. It works great on some of my sites. Some of them it doesn't work well at all. Some of them, it's fantastic. Increase the number of PHP workers, avoid unnecessary plugins that add database queries. Some things you can just do in the code, and I've told you this before. Learn how to do a little bit, please. It's really important. I've had to do this over the years, and it takes time. But learning how to use the different files to do different things really can speed up your site. And number 9 I love is make sure that your 404 page doesn't consume unnecessary resources. But there are a lot of sites out there that if you look at through the Google Search Console have a lot of errors on their 404 pages. And now hopefully that's got you guys thinking, be like, does mine? It might, so go check. I'm seeing a lot of comments, so I want to actually get to that. Sorry, I had something like floating in my eye. I see, is there a way to modify the top header without hacking header PHP? Working on a site where there's a bit challenging for me to do with just CSS. No, that is, Dawn, that is not at all. But you did break the rules. That does mean that we're going to have to push the customizable header and footer back a week. I'm sorry, everybody else. No, I'm kidding, Dawn. No, that is something that's why we specifically want that feature to come out, so so that we can do that. That's one where it's very challenging to do. I hate messing with them myself in CSS. I know a lot of people, but that, sorry, reading comments, sorry, but the coming soon Elegant Themes has some creative headers. We do. The Elegant Themes blog does have some to do creative headers. I have actually copy and pasted a bunch of those myself. I've used those. I really like the one that's done by Tammy Grant. It's a 3-part series, I believe. I think I just searched for Divi custom headers Tammy Grant. That's how I always find it. But also, if you want to, and I very rarely suggest this, but if you absolutely need to, look into Astra and using the Divi builder, because I was doing that the other day, just experimenting and playing around, and you can do some stuff with that you can't right now with just the Divi theme, but you get all the benefits, or many of the benefits of the Divi builder that way, because the builder plugin and the Divi theme that has the plugin built into it, they get updated at the same time. They are the same code, so you won't have to worry about that. But yeah, that is a major pain point. It's a major pain point for us on the team as well doing it. We want it a lot. But yeah, those are really the options right now of major CSSing it. There are some plugins that do that are third-party plugins that let you add Divi headers in. You may like those. There are a lot of different I don't even know what to call them, plugin repositories, different marketplaces, sellers and developers who put this stuff out, that you might find one of those that you really like. Because when we did WordPress 3.1, Divi 3.1, we included a lot of developer hooks in there where those plugins that go directly into Divi were able to plug in a lot easier and became really more robust. Right now, those are probably your best bets. But it looks like it's almost time to go, my friends. That is stinky. So I want to get to just a couple more things before we go. And speaking of dynamic content, I want to point out the one under that hosting dynamic sites for the Flywheel article on 3 ways that dynamic tables can improve your WordPress sites. That with the dynamic content, this is something to look at too, because you can use dynamic content with the table module that we have, and that might be something that you can use to really spruce up your WooCommerce store maybe. We're working on, I'm not sure if it's come out yet, maybe it came out, the WooCommerce update. We're working on a WooCommerce update. If it didn't come out, it's coming out soon. That was something that I think is really useful for you guys to see as how you can use tables with it. Also, there was an article that was put up on the Elegant Themes blog that I saw the other day. I didn't know it was pending, and I clicked on it, and this is the one that got me to use Gutenberg again. It's the one that says 3 Gutenberg block collections that show what's possible with WordPress's new editor, and it's cool. There are some really cool things out there that people have built some really cool Gutenberg blocks. The one that I've installed is the first one on here. What's it called? Atomic Blocks. That was the one that I had ended up installing and playing around with, and there's good stuff out there, y'all. So I'm really hoping that these first offerings of Gutenberg blocks, of Guten blocks, are just a oh, what's the word? Are, you know, the word is leaving me. I hope that this is an indication of things to come, because if they're this good already while we're still in beta, I'm hoping that it's this good when it's released and coming in the coming months. So, you know, that said, that is all the time. Taste of things to come. Oh, that is it, Uncle Social. That was what I was trying to remember. Thank you so much. I do apologize for that. My brain sometimes just forgets words. But yeah, the very last one, I guess I want to at least just point out to you, I'm not going to be able to go into it, is 5 lessons that you won't learn in design school. And this is something that I've talked about a lot. They cover soft skills in this about being personable and how to talk to people. And it is incredibly important. I cannot stress that enough, that if you're going to be a designer or a desk jockey like me, and probably most of you guys, you probably want to develop a few soft skills. And this one is a really good breakdown of some of the most important ones. That said, looks like we're out of time. I really appreciate everybody coming and talking and hanging out and answering questions and correcting when I forget words in the English language, everything like that. I always have a blast with you guys. Remember that I do this every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, and we also have other live streams on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, and on Mondays at 6 a.m. Eastern. We have Mac doing the new feature tutorials and walkthroughs. I think that would be a very fantastic one this week for y'all to check out if you're interested in the dynamic content, because it should be on dynamic content this time. So if you're curious on how it works technically and some of the things you can do with it, Mac will be walking through that on Monday at 6. And then on Tuesday at 3, we will have a use case with Danietta or Jason, and I can't remember whose week it is at this point. So you'll see one of their beautiful faces walking you through Divi project that way. So thank you guys for joining in. I appreciate all of the new folks coming in. I really appreciate you taking the time and tuning in. If you came in late, remember that you can always catch up on the beginning of the show or rewatch anytime you want on YouTube or Facebook, because they are archived on there once the stream goes over. Once the stream is over. And if you have any questions, reach out to me on Twitter. Feel free to email me at bj@elegantthemes.com. And be sure to check out Mac's live stream at 6 a.m. Eastern on the Elegant Themes Facebook and YouTube channels. And also, if you want to get notified every single time we go live, you can tell them on Facebook if you're on there. It's in the page options to be notified whenever this page goes live. Or you can, on YouTube, click the notification bell, which may be somewhere like right here-ish, and you will be able to get notified then, too. So I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. I hope that the next week goes really well for you, and like I've said before, give the content creators a little bit of love, because without them, this would not be possible, and it would not be possible, like PBS says, without viewers like you. I'll see you guys later. Bye, y'all.